Alright, believe it or not, we are heading towards the home stretch. All we have left to do to finish our module is to set up the COM port. And then after we have that set up, to go ahead and start collecting our data from Vixen and send it out to the COM port. So, let's start in this part. Let's get our COM port made. In order to do that, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to open the COM port during that start method, and then make sure it gets closed during the stop method. That way, as soon as the module is called, it sets up the COM port. As soon as Vixen is done with the module, it will close it down. So, in order to get it started, what we're going to need to do is we are going to need a global port object, a serial port object. So let's go ahead and make that. Okay, all we have to do, we're going to declare this as private. We're just going to use it within this class. And it's going to be of the type serial port. Now you will see I am not getting a serial port because once again I forgot to add the namespace for IO ports. So let's add that using system.io.ports. Okay, and let's try doing this again. We should get a drop down. It should say private serial port. And let's name that underscore port. Okay, now this underscore port is available throughout our entire class. So like I said before, we just need to set it up in our setup method and then close it in our, set it up in our start method and close it in our stop method. So just scroll down to the start method. And all we want to do, we do want to make sure we only run this if there is a COM port set up in our underscore my data. And we'll test that the same way we tested it before, just by checking to make sure that the port name is not set to null. So if my data dot port name is equal to null, or I'm sorry, is not equal to null, and then we're going to go ahead and we will create the port. So underscore port equals a new serial port. Once you hit parentheses, now we have to add some information that is needed for the serial port class. The first thing it needs is which serial port, my data dot port name, and then next you'll see a pop up down here, tells us we have to put in the baud rate. So let's give it the baud rate, my data dot baud rate, comma, and then it wants, right here you see it wants the parity. So let's go ahead and give it my data dot parity, which if you remember we set up the defaults in our data class. Next it's asking for data bits, so my data dot data bits, and then stop bits, data dot stop bits. There you go. And now we have our port set up. Actually, I didn't want to close that down because the next thing we want to do, now that we have our serial port declared, we want to actually open it. So underscore port dot open semicolon. Now our port is open. As soon as the module gets called by Vixen, it will make the serial port and then it will open it. Now, just remember that we also want to make sure in the stop that when we're finished with it, we want to close the port. So port.close, that closes the port, and also I dispose of it. I'm not sure if this is really necessary to do this, but I've been putting it in, so that takes care of that. So our serial port is created. So the last thing we have to do is we have to start getting our information, our data out to the serial port. We will handle that in the next couple parts, but I just want to point you where we're going to be looking at. All of our collecting our data is going to be done within these next two methods, the only methods that we have not finished yet. And we will cover them in the next part or two.